Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Faith, Fitness And Fastballs. I have my boy Aaron Davis here. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. I can't complain. The weather's not too pretty, but I got a lot of things to be thankful for. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. Likewise, man. And I really wanted to have you on because your journey of how you were in high school and then starting on University of Georgia football team in the national championship is just a crazy experience. So I really wanted to have you on here just to talk about that. So let's get into it, man. Tell us about your childhood of playing sports and football and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. It's funny to say that. It's ironic to talk to you about this because baseball was my first love, and I'll be honest with you, like I really truly do, to this day I believe that I was probably better at baseball than I was at
Okay.
football. But like baseball just wasn't as fun and exciting as football.
Hmm.
So growing up, I grew up. I played for like a team called Jonesboro Cardinals, and it was like
Okay.
a really local team, and we were good. But like it was pretty much, we played for our church. It was the same kids that played for our church basketball league. We played for baseball, but like I didn't play football. And then so
Okay.
it's just like I'm watching them one year. And I'm like, mom, dad, I gotta play, I gotta play, I gotta play. My mom was like, no, you're gonna get hurt. I don't want you to play. I don't want you to play. So this is when I was like 7, and she wouldn't let me play. And I went to a game, and I was like, look, like I just gotta play. I gotta play. So then
Yeah.
when I was 8 years old, that was my first year playing. And it's crazy. I mean, it's just growing up, all I did was play backyard football, go outside,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And like the first game I had, over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half as a running back. So it was just really funny, but it was great to be there with all my friends and stuff like that. So I started playing football when I was 8, and I was pretty good. I was a part of some really good teams. Very fortunate to be part of North Henry Tigers, where it's like we had like at least 10 or 11 guys go to D1
Wow.
and play football for them. And so the entire streak was 72 games in a row that
Hmm.
they won, 5 championships, Franksky Bowl championship as well. But I was there the last 2 years of that, so very fortunate to be a part of that, and that kind of helped me out because like when I was in 8th grade, I was playing travel ball
Hmm.
with my team, and I was playing 8th grade football. So it's
Yeah.
just like I'd finish one practice, leave, drive from McDonough to Stockbridge, and
Yep.
then have a whole nother practice after that. So just really wild things that doing at a very young age, but it prepared me, and
Yep.
I have to say that. For me, I can't like go anywhere without seeing the praises of my older brother. So my older brother, he's like, he's almost 2 years older than me, and like I was by him like glue. So it's just
Yep.
like everything that he did, I did, and we competed with each other. And I was always competing with someone who was 2 grade levels above me. So then,
Yep.
like when I started, focusing on just people who were just my age, things became very easy. And so I went through the ringer, which was high school football. I started. It's funny. Like when I came in my freshman year, I was one of 4 players who had the opportunity to play JV.
Okay.
And halfway through the season, like I was playing, but I was kind of rotating. And
Yeah.
Coach B, shout out to Coach B, he came to me. He was like, "Look, man, you know, I think the world of you. I think you're doing an excellent job. You're working your tail off. But what do you think about going back down to 9th grade? Like, I know you're on JV. We know you belong on this level, but we just want to get more reps out of you." And
Right.
I'm humble, so it's just like I just want to play. So like I did
Right.
it. And once again, it was another thing to where at JV I'm playing with 10th, 11th graders. I go
Hmm.
back down to 9th grade, and it's like people at my age, and it was so much more easier.
Yeah.
And so that kind of helped me out as well, just getting more reps at the high school level. And so
Hmm.
then my sophomore year, I started every game except for the first one. Like I think like the first one, somebody else was starting over me, and then like I just had a really good game, and I started for the rest of the year after that. So my sophomore year, I had a great year, and then I started getting into like the camp circuit.
Yep.
So I got into the camp circuit. I got active. I made the Nike All Spark camp. I went to the Under Armour camp. Got all Under Armour team in Atlanta as well. And I was doing my thing. I was really doing my thing. Sophomore year went great for me. I feel like I got snubbed, but I did make honorable mention all region my first
Okay.
year playing. And so that was wonderful. And then things were picking up more, and I just remember like being in school and leaving class literally like every 30 minutes
Hmm.
just because a coach would come talk to me or something like that. And it was
That's
just the
crazy.
coolest experience ever to talk to all these different coaches from all these different schools that I grew up watching. And, from there, that really kind of prepared me, and I just kept excelling from there. But then my going into what would be my junior year, it was the spring game of my sophomore year. After the season concluded, I tore my ACL, and it was
Yep.
like the weirdest thing ever because it just felt like some people say they hear like a loud pop or something like
Yeah.
that. Well, I just like it just felt like a little grind. And so, I fell on the ground and then there was like a bunch of people trying to I'm like, get off me, don't touch me, I'm fine,
Yeah.
I'll be good. And I was trying to like do some moves, but something just felt awkward. And so I went to
Yeah.
the doctor, went through that whole process, and basically like it was drawn out longer than what it should have been. But
Mm.
I went through the process. And I tore my ACL, and I missed my entire junior year. But I said, hey, I still got my senior year, and
Right.
unfortunately, 7.5 months later, I tore my ACL again, which it was
Yeah.
a partial tear, but it's the same process, and so
Yeah.
it happened again. But this time, I had a different focus, because I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, and I started preparing myself even more when it came to that. And I
Mm.
attacked my rehab very vigorously. Shout out to Colleen. She worked with me. She pushed me to the brinks, and it prepared me. And so I'm sitting here. Fast forward to my senior year,
Hmm.
and the doctor's telling me, look, man, this is your second time. Really, your timetable is 9 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Leaning a little bit closer to 12 months. I said, okay, doc. Well, they cleared me at 6 months because like
Yeah.
I could cut and move and all that kind of stuff after that because I was ahead of schedule the entire time. And so I went back to practice and like I was like, all right, I'll just do a little couple things and like I'm out of practice and the coaches were like, dude, are you sure you can't
Right.
play? Like, hey, what's going on? Like, we're seeing you out here in practice, but it looks like you can play. And I was like, well, coach, the doctor says I should wait 3 more months before I really give it a go. And then, but I decided to dress out. I dressed out
Yeah.
my senior year, and the last game in the first drive, like I watched it and I didn't do anything. And I told my coaches before the game that look, I'm gonna play, but I only want to play offense. At least on offense, I can kind of dictate my own moves. If I feel
Right.
something, I can just get down if I need to. And I did that, and I ended up like setting a school record for most receptions in a single high school football game. And I kind of used that tape to kind of parlay myself
For sure.
an opportunity to go at Georgia, and Georgia's a whole nother beast when it comes to after that.
Absolutely. Which is a crazy story. I mean, so let's go back. So you had this recognition your sophomore year. You're starting to see,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like SEC, ACC, Power Five football is in my near
Mm-hmm.
future, and you tear your ACL. Did you have like mentally? How did you feel for after the first ACL tear?
So I would say it was very strange, right? Because it was a drawn out process,
Hmm.
and I never heard of an ACL tear before.
Okay.
Like I just didn't know what it was. I went to the doctor, sat in the waiting lobby for like 3 hours
Wow.
for me to see like a regular physician, and he comes in. He grabs my knee for like 5 seconds and said, "You have a knee sprain," and they got like an X-ray, and that was it. And I was like, "Knee sprain, okay." So he said, "You'll
I
heal
consider
it
that.
in 4 to 6 weeks." I said, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine with me." And I waited 4 to 6 weeks, and something still just didn't feel right. And so I
Right.
came back, got some actual imaging, got some MRIs, and basically ended up confirming that I actually had an ACL tear, and that started my education process. And so
Hmm.
I think at the time, like, I was more in shock just because I didn't know. And once they told me that like an ACL is like 6 months to a year, I was like, a year?
Right.
Like, I can't miss football for an entire year. What do you want me to do? But
Right.
that was the reality of it. And I went through that whole process, and everything was brand new. And then like going into the second time. Uh, after I tore it again, like I was bummed. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, I was very bummed because
That was my
you
next
work,
question. How'd you feel after that? Like, because you went through
man,
the first time.
right,
Okay, like you're still feeling somewhat good. You have that last year.
right.
You know that's in the bag. Okay, I'm gonna get right and have my last year. You tear it again. How are you feeling? You said you're bummed. Go into detail about like what that was like for you.
Yeah, that I mean that was tough, right? That was very tough just because like after my first year, I still had the coaches, right? I
Yeah,
still had like I was still going and getting called up. I had a
right.
brace on or whatever. Or I had to
This is
walk the
cool.
crutches
Yeah,
up, but they were fine because they knew that I still had another year to kind of for them to evaluate me and see if I get healthy again.
right.
But when the second time happened, like you know it was split because on one side I was like, look, I'm gonna attack this. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna let this defeat me. I'm going to be even better than I was the first time. But at the same time, I felt like I was better physically after my second tear. But
Hmm.
at the same time, like the phone calls, I'm the coaches that were calling me,
Did
like
that go
left
away?
and right, the ones that were calling my coaches, the ones that were visiting me, all that stuff started to dwindle
Mm.
down, right? And so it's just like I think the hardest moment for me was so like my first offer I ever got was from Wake Forest. I got an
Okay.
offer from Furman, and then the next offer I got was the Florida Gators.
Okay.
And so I'm talking to the coach once he gets to school, and he looks at me. He's like, Davis. He's like, what is this? You got a brace on? And I'm like, yeah, coach. I tore my ACL again, but they say I'm supposed to be back. And so he kind of told me like, okay, well, we got to reevaluate. And in
Hmm.
my head, I'm like,
You
reevaluate.
know what that means?
I know exactly what that
Yeah,
means. I try to call him back like the next week. Nobody ever picks up,
yeah.
right? And so that was really the pivotal moment for me because that's when I made my decision that look, if the University of Florida, who I was a Georgia fan growing up, but
Okay.
you couldn't help but appreciate Florida. I mean, Percy
Right.
Harvin, Tim Tebow. I mean, they're Chris
All of
Rain, great players, right?
I
So
was
it's
a
like
diehard Florida fan growing up, so I know all of them.
exactly right. So it's
Yeah.
just like if they thought that I was good enough to play for them in the SEC level, I'm like, I know I can play at
Right.
the University of Georgia. And so that really changed my mindset and my decision when it came to that. And I feel like, you know, as I got older, I didn't realize this until I got older, but I realized that for me, once I started getting closer to like Georgia, I was really big with like our team chaplain and stuff like that, and I would talk to
Hmm.
him a bunch, do Bible study, all that kind of stuff. Like I feel like that was a moment where God really humbled me, right? Like I was getting all this attention from all these different scouts, rivals, these camps, coaches, all this kind of stuff, and it's like so much stuff around me and I never in those moments took time to give thanks enough. And I
Hmm.
feel like I got humbled when it came to that. And that was a decision. I mean, that was a realization that I had once I got into to Georgia that I kind of needed to reconnect.
Yep.
And once I started down that path, I feel like, it's been nothing but blessings for me when it comes
Yeah.
to that. So it's just like I would never like I would never change, kind of my past and how that happened. But at the same time, it's just like that was a big learning lesson for me that I just had to go through. And it's just so interesting because Georgia's my favorite school. So it's the school that I wanted to go to.
Yep.
And though I didn't take the direct path that almost everyone else takes, I still end up being exactly at the place that I wanted to be. So it's just like it was a very rewarding feeling to finally, actually make it to Georgia and be on the team.
And that's crazy you said it, man, because all of us who play sports at the high level, we are faith based, but it's hard to, it's hard not to make that your everything.
Right.
Like I don't know how it was for you guys. I'm sure it was probably just as crazy. But when we're in school, I mean, we have running at 6 a.m. We have class from
Hmm.
8 to 2. We have practice from 2 to 6. We have workouts from 6 to 7. We have study hall from 8 to 9. It's
Right.
like that. Baseball for me was my everything in college. And I think kind of what you were saying, it took, me being away from the game to realize, okay, like this isn't like this isn't
Right.
who I am, this is what I do. So
Right.
and it's really, crazy to hear that you say, once you started getting with the chaplain and really rediscovering and having that relationship with God, things started to turn around for you. It, almost to say like sometimes things happen for a reason for
Hmm.
God to reconnect back to you. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with that. And just to piggyback off of something you said, right? So it's just like, you know, to make it on the Division 1 levels specifically for, and this applies just for, I mean, for football and baseball, to make
Hmm.
it to the SEC, like you have to be in the top 1%, right? Just to make it there. And then to then you don't realize that because like you're on a roster of everyone who was probably the best player in their
Yep.
county, the best person, some people are the best people in their state, right? You got to be in the top 1% of your roster to make it on
Stay
the
there.
starting line. And,
Yep.
and, and on top of that, it's like, it is so much harder to maintain success than it
Yep.
is to achieve it, right? Like a lot of people hit one time and they have a great moment, but you have to maintain that in order to be a main staple and be there long term. So it's just like that mindset, you can't just do just the things that your coaches ask for you. So you
Yep.
have this whole schedule that you just outlined that, has your day kind of, every single minute of your day planned out from 6 to 10. And on top of that, you understand that you still have to put in extra work on
Yep.
top of that
You got to
just
find
to
that
be the
time.
best on your team, right? So you got to find that time, whether that's on the weekends, whether that's before your workouts, or whether that's 15 minutes after your workouts,
Yep.
right? Like you got to find that extra time so that you can actually compete and beat out other people because, one, you're competing with the people on your roster, but if you have aspirations to make it to the next level above that, you're
Yep.
you're competing with every other athlete in the country as well. So there's a lot that's required to make it to those heights, and you have to also build in time to focus on things that are outside of your sport.
Absolutely.
And it's a hard thing to balance. It's a hard thing to balance, but that's why so
Everybody's
few
not cut
people
out
make
for it.
it. Right?
Everybody's
Yeah.
not cut out for it. One of my teammates in college said you have to figure out how to way. You have to figure out a way to stretch 26 hours out of 24 hours.
Yep.
And it does. And at the time, I was like, okay, I get it, but you don't get it until like you're like, okay, because doing the bare minimum, like you said, isn't going to get you where you want to go. And I'm glad you hit on it because a lot of kids don't understand that. It's one thing. A lot of kids, and I try to tell people this: go to a school that's going to pay for your education that you're going to get to play. A lot of
Mhm.
kids and I get it. We've all been there. A lot of kids want the name. Oh, I committed here. But
Right.
there's, for baseball, there's only 25 guys on a roster.
Mhm.
We had 17 new guys come in on our team my freshman
Mhm.
year. Let's do the math. Everybody's not going to make it. People get cut
Right.
during the fall. People drop out because of grades. People transfer out. People redshirt. I mean, I don't know how many it was, but it wasn't that many my senior year that had started with me. And I
Mhm.
can only imagine it was the same way with you because Georgia is. I hate to say it, it's the reality. Georgia, the recruiters there are trying to find people to replace you. Like it is what it is.
I've had coaches tell me that to my face
Yeah.
to say that, and that's a different discussion, but it's like, I came on as a walk on, earn myself a scholarship, right? But
Mm-hmm.
before I earned my scholarship, I've had coaches tell me that, look, we don't even plan on giving you a scholarship because next year we're going to recruit somebody to replace you.
Yep.
Right. And so it's just like, how do you deal with, a coach who, that is his job to find somebody to replace you, right? And that's the reality of it, right? So it's just
Yep.
like you're competing with so many different people, and like I said, the maintenance part to maintain, excellency over a sustained period of time, like you have to do that if you wanna actually play and have some longevity, because if not, there's somebody else who's just as hungry as you. There's somebody else who's just as talented as you. And
Yep.
if you slip up, if you have one week, one bad day of practice, like I tell people this all the time, right? Like I'm fortunate enough that I had a great career, whatever, and now I work in commercial real estate, and I love it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's just like I have a mid-year review and I have an end of the year review, right? And those are my times that I get evaluated.
Yep.
In collegiate sports and professional sports, you're evaluated daily. Like people
Facts. Yep.
don't understand that. Like
Yep.
you could have one bad week, and now all of a sudden, hey, I was the starting pitcher for this week. Hey, now I'm fourth in the rotation. Now they're
Absolutely.
inserting this person, right? Hey, I was starting this week at cornerback. Hey, I had a really bad week of practice, right? Now they're giving the young guy behind me my reps, and he's gonna start in the game, right? So it's just like it is so tough when it comes to that, and you always have to be sharp, and it's a difficult thing to do. And like you said, not everybody's cut out for it, but the
Mm-hmm.
people who are, they find great success, and you build incredible soft skills that you will have that other people just can't have, and other people will not be able to replicate because they haven't been in those environments.
Exactly. 100%. I think you just said the word I was about to really allude to. Environment. Like it's
Mm,
an environment that is gonna make you or break you. It's gonna force you to either be great or go to the wayside. And once again, I'm not mad at our coaches for it. We signed up for it.
Right.
And if we were in the same boat, like, we have to feed your family at the end of the day. In
Yeah.
college, these coaches are getting, I don't know, like Kirby Smart, he's getting paid millions of dollars
Yeah.
to win.
You're
And
right.
if he's not going to win at the highest level, like, they going to find somebody else eventually to do that. It's the same thing. So
Yeah.
he has to find the right players that are going to help the program win. And that was the same thing in my school. Like, they paid our coach a lot of money to win, and if you can do it, great. We're gonna stay here. If not, we have to find somebody else, because we're in a production based environment. We are,
Hmm.
and it's not about what you did last year. At the end of the day, it's about what you're doing
No.
right now. So
No.
completely agree with you on everything you said. So going back to now, let's go back to after your you had your second ACL surgery,
Hmm.
and I think you came back that end of the year, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So I came back at 6 months and 2 weeks, right? So
Yep.
so here I am supposed to be waiting 9 months to 12 months. I came back at 6 months and 2 weeks to play in my last game, and I could not go. I couldn't leave high school without playing with my guys
You
one
had to
more
play one
time.
game. Yeah.
And so I played only offense, and I set the school record for the most
Yep.
receptions in a game. And I used that along with like the tape I had my sophomore year, and I kind of pitched it to some a coach at Georgia.
Okay.
And it was very interesting because one thing that was always stressed in my household and always held true was that grades were more important than anything else. And
Hmm.
so, if I slipped up on my grades, there is no football. If I slip up
Yeah.
on my grades, there is no all the other things that I like to do, right? So I was able to get into Georgia early because I
Okay.
had the grades, and I was actually at Georgia on an academic tour, not an athletic visit, an
Okay.
academic visit. And after the academic visit was over, like me and my dad was like, "Hey, we're just gonna go to the football facility and see
Yep.
who will talk to us." And we told him like, hey, I was being recruited by this coach at this one time. I tore my ACL. Now I'm not being recruited anymore. Like, who can we talk to?
Yeah.
And his I hate that I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Daryl. It was Coach Daryl, and he gave me a shot, man. He gave me a shot, and I knew once I had the opportunity that I wasn't gonna let it go to the wayside.
So what did that look like? Like, what, like, he gave you the opportunity, like, what were those conversations like? Because you walked on at Georgia. Like,
Hmm.
did he, like, hey, we're gonna help you get on the team? Like, what was that conversation like for you to be in a Georgia uniform that following year?
So he was very instrumental of the introduction of me, right? Because you have a class of people that they've actually recruited and went
Yeah.
out and visited and stuff like that. Well, it's funny now because now that I look at like the University of Georgia, they get like 3 or 4 guys every year who sign to like preferred walk-on offers.
Hmm.
And that wasn't a thing. I was actually the first class of people who got a shot. And it was like me and my guy Austin, who was a long snapper. And we were the
Okay.
first preferred walk-ons at Georgia. And there was
Wow.
a bunch of paperwork and stuff. And so like I got there, so school in Georgia ended in like May 28th, May
Yep.
29th, right? First day of campus was like June 2nd, right? So it's
Wow.
3 days out from when I graduated from high school, and then I'm on campus at the University of Georgia. But the whole first month, I didn't participate with the team because it was all compliance and paperwork issues. So me and
Right.
Austin, we weren't roommates, but we lived in the same building, and so we were like, work out every now and then. But
Yeah.
we convinced ourselves that, hey, I don't want to work out too hard because once we get to the team, we might be too sore or too tired, and then we'll
Right.
look bad, right? But a month goes by, and basically I haven't done anything, right? So
Yeah.
then the first day I get to a workout, I finish the workout, which we already know, like the jump from what you do in high school versus what you do in college, whole different level, completely
Absolutely.
different level. So the first workout I had, it was on a different level, and on top of that, I'm sitting at probably about a month out where I haven't like actively worked out.
Right.
I ran back to the room as quickly as I could. I puked my guts out, man. It was the ultimate wake up call, but
Yeah.
it just kind of set me up, and from there it gradually got easier, right? Just because being with the guys and understanding what it takes and seeing other people, it gradually got easier. But that first day was rough, man. But I appreciate Coach Darrell for his efforts. of just giving me the opportunity to actually have a chance to be there and be with the team.
Good, man. Good. No, and that's a crazy story, man. And so let's go into that freshman year.
Mhm.
You're on the team. What does your freshman year look like?
So I left high school. I was about 6 feet, a buck 70,
Okay.
right? You can't play in the SEC like that, right? So my freshman year was all about getting bigger, faster, stronger.
Okay.
And that was my intention, but that's also like wasn't a choice of mine. So,
Yeah.
I won't call any names, but I'm talking to a coach, and I'm sitting in the DB meeting room, and they have all these like binders lined out for everyone,
Hmm.
and they say, and everyone has a binder with their name on it, and the meeting finishes, and I before practice, I asked coach, I said, hey man, like, um I didn't get a binder with my name on it. Where's my binder at? He told me, he said, look, you don't need a binder. You're not going to play this year. You'll get your shot in the spring.
Okay.
So that was like, really? I'm like, I don't even get an opportunity. Like,
Right.
you don't even want to see what I can do.
Right.
So that really kind of created a monster out of me, right? So
Hmm.
like my freshman year, I was scout team, right? I was
Yep.
scout team, but like that in a way that prepared me a lot for the year before that, because you got Aaron Murray at quarterback, you
Yep.
got Malcolm Mitchell, you got Chris Conley, who's still playing for the 49ers, you
Yep.
got Justin Scott Wesley, I mean Rantavius Wooten, Jay Rome, like you got all these guys out there who are all SEC or made it to the NFL, right?
Hmm.
And my job is to be the scout for them,
You work
right? So
against
I
them.
remember,
Yep.
I vividly remember like a couple moments where we're doing one-on-ones just like with the scout team, and it's supposed to be working releases, and like I'm jamming this guy up,
Yep.
and the wide receiver coach is like, dude, what are you, this is the scout team guy, what are you
Right.
doing? And then we had another opportunity where like we're doing this thing, and they tried to scheme me up, they tried to hit me with a double move with Chris Conley, actually, who's like, he's amazingly fast, like one of the
Yeah.
fastest people I've ever seen. They try to hit me with like an out and up, and like most people, like, I mean, you see people, get beat by that move every single day in the NFL and college.
Yep.
Well, I played it perfectly, so perfectly that they say run the play again. They say, hey Davis, like, you know, he's not going to do that in the game. So you just fall for the
They
move, right?
told you
So
to
it's just,
chill out, basically.
they told me to chill out, right? And so
Yeah.
it's just like I embraced that year. I knew I wasn't playing, but I embraced that year, and I took it to actually get bigger, faster, stronger, which I did, and I really, really worked on my craft, and I took it serious. And so, when it was my opportunity the next year, like I was ready, I was prepared.
Okay. Good. So let's go into that sophomore year. You went through all that your freshman year.
Yep.
Sophomore year comes up. What does that look like?
It was spring ball, so it's technically still my first year on campus, but it's
Okay.
spring ball, going into the sophomore year. And I remember walking into our first DB meeting room, and I also think I was very fortunate as well, had some luck when it comes to that. So, we had Todd Grantham as our defensive coordinator, and they decided to part ways with him, and they brought in Coach Pruitt.
Okay.
And so in my eyes, this is a fresh face who, like, all he knows is like, maybe some of the game tape or what he heard, or maybe some players
Hmm.
he recruited in the past. But like he gets to see everybody new, brand new. So
Yeah.
like it's almost like a clean slate to me. But
Yeah.
I walk
Exactly.
into the first DB meeting room, and I'm a corner. There's 5 corners for left corner. There's 4 corners for right corner on the depth chart, and I was number 9. I was 9 out of 9, right? And so like they at Georgia, we would split the field up to ones and threes, which typically ones and threes is like your ones are your starters, your threes
Okay.
are pretty much like freshmen
Yeah.
that they just recruited, that they want to try to like usher up to be
Yeah.
better. So they get them closer to the ones, and then the other field was twos and fours. So twos are like your immediate backups, and then
Okay.
fours are pretty much guys that they don't ever expect to play.
Yeah.
And so I was on the field with the twos and fours, and I was
Okay.
impressing, doing that a lot. And then on the ones like we had finished on the twos and fours field, and then we got to the ones and threes field. We were just watching it, and one of the guys went down. So they said, "We need a corner. We need somebody, right?" So
Hmm.
people were just looking around, and I think I remember Damian Swan. So shout out to Swan. He was like, "Get in there, get in there." So I
Yeah.
just went in there, and I made like a couple plays, and so from then, like I was just getting noticed and noticed and noticed, and by the time you look up, spring ball is like a month long or whatever. I went from 9 out of 9 to by the spring game, I was starting at corner in the spring game, right? So that goes from, like I said, 9 out of 9 to one of the top two
Yep.
on the team. So I was ready. I was prepared, and I think that's something that a lot of guys struggle with, right? That's why I think it's so hard for freshmen. You think about like some of the most talented freshmen who come out of high school, they get to the college level and they still don't necessarily play, or they play in a very, very limited role
Yeah.
because there's so much stuff to get adjusted to outside of your sport. And
Yep.
then within your sport, you're trying to pick up, the playbook. You're trying to make sure that you do all these certain things correctly.
Yep.
And for me to kind of make that leap, I did have a year to prepare myself, but like for
Sure.
me to make that leap so quickly, I think it was just a testament of being prepared and being ready for the moment because injuries happen. We see what
Yep.
happened with. Obviously, I'm not comparing myself to Tom Brady, but you see the opportunity that Tom Brady was given once,
Absolutely.
Drew Bledsoe got hurt, right? And so it's just like he was ready and prepared for the moment, and you never know when that moment is. And there's a lot of factors outside of just what you can control that actually, determine when you get that opportunity. But you better be sure that once you get that opportunity, you make the most of it.
Because you might not have another one after that.
You might not, especially for me who walked on, right? So I know I'm on a very short leash, right? Like there's no investment to it. They didn't spend any money to recruit me. They didn't
Right.
do anything to me. They didn't promise my parents anything, not
Right.
anything. So they don't have any words to live up to, right? So it's just like for me, I knew I had to be sharp because there's a very short leash for me compared to some other guys, and it's I get it, but I'm aware of that, and because of that, I know that I have to bring it even more than everyone else around me.
Got you, man. And so now you're starting. What was your first SEC game that you started in? Do you remember that?
That was it's my favorite game to this day. Because like it was a huge shock, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we went to Luella. Luella, we played a lot of good teams in football, but we
Yeah.
weren't good in football,
Right.
right? So like our games just weren't rocking, right? But I get to Sanford Stadium and it's on a whole nother level. It's nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. I mean, the stands, the lights, the people, all the players on the other team, like it's crazy. I remember like in the game, me and the safety, like we're probably like 6 feet away. We can't even hear ourselves.
Yeah.
Like if he's talking to me, I can't hear him. He can't hear me. The ground is shaking underneath my
Wow.
feet. And even in that, my very first game in college football is between the hedges. I caught an interception in
Wow.
that game. The crowd went crazy. Like it was just a very special moment. And I was so excited to be there and to make a play for my team. And so like to this day, my very first game is still my favorite game in my entire football career.
Who'd y'all play that game?
Clemson, man. We played
Wow.
Clemson. It was the game. So we had a home and home like the year before they played Clemson with like Sammy Watkins and all of them, and then the next year they came to Athens to play us. And they still had some really good players. I mean, that was Deshaun Watson's freshman year. He ended up coming in like towards the end of the game for them. But I mean, they had a bunch of really great players. Like it's Clemson, right? And so we ended up winning. I think it was like 45-21 or something like that. We pulled
Yeah.
away late. But it was a special game because it wasn't a warm up at all. It was not a
Yeah.
warm up at all. So it was a high stakes game, ESPN night game. So like I said, the atmosphere was absolutely crazy.
Crazy. That's
Yeah,
good, man. So we're gonna jump fast forward a little bit. Let's go to the Rose Bowl
yeah.
against y'all versus Oklahoma. What did that look like? How was
That
that?
man, that was to this day that was probably the most disappointed I've ever been in our team and our was just the defense specifically the defense, right? Because like I felt like I wasn't very vocal, but I did feel like I was kind of a leader on the defense as far
Mm,
as like just setting the example. Now on the field, I was like extremely vocal, but as
yeah,
far as like like rallying guys and stuff like that, I just didn't really do that much. But like
yeah,
it was just disappointing for us as a team because we were on pace to be one of the most historically statistically best defenses in the history of college football,
yeah,
and we get out there and we're playing Oklahoma and we're just beating ourselves. I mean,
yeah.
we give credit to Oklahoma for what they were able to do, but a lot of that stuff I feel like we were just beating ourselves, and so it's like we gave up. I mean, it was overtime included, but we gave up 48 points. Like we
Yeah,
never give up 48 points, right? So it was like we're a defense where like our standard was 13 or less.
yeah.
And so that was disappointing in us. But like when we absolutely needed the moments, we stepped up. Like
Right.
one of those was for me. I have like a framed picture of me getting a sack on Baker Mayfield,
Yep.
and that's the Heisman Trophy winner. He's a rah rah guy. Pre-game, he ran through like our wide receiver drills and trying to
Mhm.
do all this tactics and
Yeah.
mind things, right? And like I got a sack on him. I played a really good game, and we end up winning that game. And people regard it as one of the best college football games in history, and I think rightfully so.
I agree. I think
And
it's top. It's top three for sure. Like it
yeah,
has.
so it's just like it's I'm so happy to be a part of those moments, and that's what you live for. That's what you work for. Those are the moments that you want. Those are the moments that you absolutely embrace. And so I think the Rose Bowl was I mean it was littered with talents. You think about the offense that we faced. You got Baker Mayfield at quarterback, CeeDee Lamb,
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, right? So it's just like you got guys who are in the NFL, Pro Bowlers all over the place,
Yeah.
and I feel like our defense was loaded with some people as well. So
Absolutely.
we battled hard, and thankfully we came out on top.
Yep. So y'all won the Rose Bowl. Now you're facing Bama. Was it in Georgia? Was it that the
It was
double?
back in
Well,
Atlanta, so
yeah.
the funny
Mercedes-Benz.
part is like we had to fly all the way out to California, and then like as soon as the game over, they were like, hurry up, because they wanted us to get back to Atlanta and be able to rest and stuff like that
Yep.
to get prepared and get ready for the game in Atlanta because it was in the Mercedes Benz.
Yep. So now you're in the national championship, and let's go back to you. So from where you started with your ACL injuries,
Hmm.
you know, now I don't want to say barely getting on the team, but you had to work to get to the squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get on the squad. Now you're playing for a national championship, and you're a starter, and you one more win away from getting a ring.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Man, I mean, I'll tell you, it's easier to know the feelings afterwards. Like
Yeah,
while you're in it, man, you're in the mix, man. You're
yeah,
in the mud. You're like all you're thinking about is like just one more. We gotta do this one more time. Like this is
yeah,
what I need to do for us to win. This is what I need to do to help my team out. This is how I can contribute. This is how I have to have my brothers back, right? So it's just like while you're in it, like you're just in the mode. Like for me, I was just like blinders on, lightning focus onto what I needed to do. Afterwards, after I have time to reflect, you realize that like, for me, like I said, this was the greatest year of football I've ever played from 8 years old all the way up to I was like 22 at the time, right? So
yeah,
in 14 years, this was the best time that I've ever had playing football. And I would live for those pressure situations and those
mm,
moments to kind of prove and show that all the work that we've been putting in the off season, during the season, like all that at 6 to 10 p.m., that's real.
yeah,
And I want to put that on display. And so I think it's rewarding to know that you play for something big, you play for something meaningful, and you want to have as big of an impact as you possibly can to help your team out.
for sure, man. So, you go through that. Unfortunately, y'all don't win that game, but you can say that I watched every single like college football playoff game.
Hmm.
Those two games, like y'all versus Oklahoma, and then that national championship game, I haven't seen a better couple games since this happened. I'm hopeful we get
Yeah.
in the future, but like overtime. Then y'all went to overtime against Bama too.
Overtime versus Bama too.
Exactly. It's like you can as a fan of college football, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. So
Mhm.
it sucks that y'all didn't win, but you gave like you had your heart out there, and it also seeing you out there as a former, Llewellyn Lion, it was also great to see that as well. Just to see you representing on the highest stage. I mean, millions and millions of people are watching this game. So
Mhm.
it was good to see that. So I know just a little bit more time. I got like one more question, more on a
Yeah.
faith question. With everything you went through, from the ACL injuries to getting on to Georgia starting, how much impact you feel like God had on everything you did in obviously your whole life, but in that span
Mhm.
of when you felt like you were down and out to fighting for a national championship, like where was your faith at like during that whole period of time?
I mean, I think it completely changed my mindset when I was able. And shout out to T Set, he's the team chaplain at Georgia. He officiated my wedding a couple of years ago. So it's just like I think my mindset completely changed because I grew up. We went to church, here and there,
Mm-hmm.
and then like to a certain point, I guess maybe just life happens. Like I just kind of didn't go as often, or just didn't get into the Word as often. But when I had that reconnection, I mean there's a whole nother sense of joy, fulfillment that I had as a void. Now
Mm-hmm.
that I look back at it, that I just didn't have, that I didn't embrace. But once I had that reconnection, things changed, and it's
Yep.
just like it's for the people who are non-believers. I just always encourage people, do what you want, do what feels is best for you. But for me and my experience, like I can't replicate that. And it's like, it's so funny because once I had that reconnection and once I started to dive deeper and like really like treat it as not just like some side thing, like
Yeah.
it's a forefront focus in my life. Like questions that I had for myself, they got answered. Like
Yep.
things that didn't make sense to me, they became clearer. And I have to have to thank all the support and people that I had around me who were able to lead me in this direction, right? And so it's just like I could never sit here and that like the success that I've had is a direct result of just me.
Yep.
Like I truly do feel like God has perfectly placed these people in my life, and
Yep.
these people have helped me get to where I am right now. So it's just a different side of joy that I have, knowing that like faith is not something that's just like should be left to the side, or
That's
you only do it on Sunday or anything like that. Like I really do feel like the things that didn't make sense to me, like obviously if you tear your ACL twice, like the naive thing to ask is, why God, why me, like
why me.
why
Yep.
me? But that's like I've learned, like that's the wrong mindset, right? Like I've I've learned that I've been called on to
Yep.
be an example, to show the moments where I can be a leader, and show like what it looks like. And I feel like for a while I had a like, because I've always been like a very humble person,
Mm-hmm.
and to this day I still remain humble, and I always will. But I feel like I'm not feeling ashamed, but just feel like I don't really want to tell people what I do, or anything like that, or how I practice, or what I think about, what I pray about. But I think you know as of late I'm starting to embrace some of the things that I've been able to do, and the way that I embrace it is not that like, hey, look at me, look at all the things I've done.
Mm-hmm.
It's really to say that, hey, I have a stronger relationship with Jesus Christ, and because of that, because of the things that you see in me that are positive, I am a reflection of the person that I speak to and I talk to, right? And so it's just like, if you see things in me and you enjoy them and you like them, and you see like whatever you define success as, that's not because it's just I just lucked up on it, or I just did
Right.
this myself, or it's just hard work and ethic. Of course that goes into it, right? But I am a reflection of all the things that I actually want to be and I strive to be, and those come from the messages and the words and the conversations I have through Jesus Christ. So I truly believe that, and it means a bunch to me, and I'm very thankful for kind of the pivot and the mindset that I have now.
Absolutely, man. You got to think about it. Like God made you, had you go through these certain things for a reason.
Right.
And at the end of the day, our job is to glorify His name. So
Right.
for you, going through all this, you saying "Why me?" Like a lot of people would say that. You know,
Right.
so it's a normal reaction to have. But if you think about it, though, you're still talking to God by doing that. You know,
Right.
does God like it or not? I don't know. But at least we're having that conversation. Job
Mm-hmm.
in the Bible said the same thing after
Mm-hmm.
everything he went through. And there's so many men in the Bible who maybe weren't worthy enough to do this or this, and they're saying like Moses. He said, "Why me?" You know,
Mm-hmm.
Paul was said, "Why
Mm-hmm.
why am I the one going through all this when I did all this?" So for you, everything you went through, I think is you have to keep spreading that word and spreading, what you went through, because you never know. Some people might not even get God or get Jesus from like their home. So if you know
Mm-hmm.
if you're expanding that through how you live, people see that through you. So I think keep doing what you're doing, man, because and keep being that light and that word for people around you. Don't ever, and I'm not saying you are, but don't we can't ever be ashamed to
Mm-hmm.
to show we love Jesus because of
Right.
everything he's done in our life. I've had certain experiences as well that I've either said why me or whatever, and now I'm like, I get it now. I get it
Yeah.
why I went through that.
Mm-hmm.
So but no, man, I appreciate you being on the call with me, man. Your story is crazy. It is a crazy story, and but that's also a testament, obviously, to Jesus, but as well as you and your work ethic of getting there. Because I feel like 95% of people, we've heard it. So many people like, yeah, I was getting recruited here, but I tore
Right.
this, and now I'm just doing this, and that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. But you took the opposite route of saying, hey, yeah, I got hurt a couple times. Yeah, I could have said no, but Georgia, that was one of your dreams, was to play at University of Georgia, and you not
Right.
only make it work, you started and
Mm-hmm.
you got the most out of it. So congrats to you, man. Congrats to your family and success, everything, man. I appreciate you being on the call with me, man.
I really appreciate it, man. You don't know how much it means, and like I said, I had great support, people around me,
Mm,
yourself included. I mean, I don't want to like you know boast or anything or whatever it's called, but it's just like I had a bunch of people around me to look up to, and
yeah.
between all the people who've gone on and done successful things ahead of me, like those you guys were examples for me. I mean, we
Hmm.
we had a bunch of people at Llewellyn specifically that I looked up to, and I kind of took bits and pieces for,
For
and
sure.
I wouldn't be the person that I am without people like you and Darius, Bubba, Julius, my
Yep.
brother. I mean, there's just so many people to name, and so I appreciate you having me on the podcast, and I really appreciate that the opportunity to kind of share my story and spread some more light, man. So thank you again.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. This concludes the episode. Please follow, subscribe, get the word out there. We're trying to spread Jesus. We're trying to spread the word. So just keep doing what y'all doing. Love you guys. Y'all take care.